now available on e-readers everywhere. From the author of the Simp trilogy, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, Manginas, They Look Like Men But They Act Like Ladies, and The Misadventures of Captain Sailor Holcomb's Stop Simping in the Workplace. Learn what mistakes not to make with women and protect your job with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available on e-readers everywhere. Some of these Negro men are getting butthurt about the videos I do promoting my new ebook, Stop Simping in the Workplace. And I think the reason why some of them are getting butthurt about the videos that promote this ebook is because it's talking about behaviors they are participating in on the job. Because anybody who's in the workplace and this does not relate to them, they're not going to get upset about it. As the old saying says, only a hit dog is going to holler. And when it comes down to these simps in the workplace and these manginas in the workplace, they are pretty much letting themselves be known by the comments they drop in the comments section. And yesterday I got a couple of comments from an individual which pretty much showed their ignorance regarding the workplace and how insecure they are when they watch these videos. Now, the first thing this individual does is go into ad hominem attacks. And when an individual goes into an ad hominem attack, that pretty much shows that you are presenting an argument that they cannot debate, they cannot refute, and then they cannot deconstruct. And this individual goes on in the first comment to talk about how I have Asperger's. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, for you to make this type of comment, shows me that you don't want to stick to the foundation of the argument. Now, the video that I had made was, again, a video checking one of these workplace simps and going down the list of my qualifications for writing Stop Simping in the Workplace. But this guy wants to go into an ad hominem talking about how I have Asperger's syndrome, which I do not have because I have gotten clean bills of health from medical professionals. So that pretty much doesn't stand. And again, showing that this individual cannot debate the points I made in the video of the argument. Again, my qualifications for writing Stop Simping in the Workplace, where I listed all of my education and work experience and experiences in the workplace dealing with workplace simps, workplace manginas, and giving you examples of situations involving workplace simps and workplace manginas, and how these events pretty much derailed people's careers, and even how I had run into workplace simps and manginas who gave me trouble in my own career. And I did that, again, because I wanted to show people my qualifications and background, and I also wanted to show them experiences that you deal with these workplace simps. And one of the most dangerous predators, the workplace mangina, because the workplace mangina is an extremely jealous individual, and again, jealousy is a female trait. So when you deal with this workplace mangina, he will express jealousy, just like the individual did in those comments in the comments section, which I wound up deleting because I have a policy here, and I've always said it's consistent policy. If you go into ad hominem attacks on my channel, I will delete the comments, and if I can, if possible, I'm going to block you. That is my official policy. You can disagree with me, you can present, different arguments, but if you go into ad hominem attacks and name calling, I am going to delete your comment, and I'm going to block you from being able to post further comments on this channel. That is my official policy. Again, I do not go into beefs with people. I do not go into arguments with people. If you disagree, you are allowed to disagree, but you're not going to get personal with me. That's, again, something a simp would do, because a simp, when you present him with facts and information, he's going to go into ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics just like a female, because he does not know how to agree to disagree, and he does not know how to listen because he's too busy getting emotional and taking things personal. This is why a simp is a bad employee to have on your job, because they do not know how to think critically, they do not know how to problem solve, they do not know how to organize, and they just don't know how to work with people unless everybody agrees with them. And I'm sorry, when you're in the workplace, again, as I've stated in my previous series, why you shouldn't hire a workplace mangina. The workplace is a place filled with conflict. And if you cannot deal with conflict, you're not going to be able to survive in the workplace. And this is why your workplace simp doesn't usually last long on the job, because whenever you present him with information he does not like, what he does is he starts to get emotional, starts to take things personal, starts going into ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics and other personal insults, thinking that hurting the person's feelings is going to, help him in the business world. Hurting somebody's feelings in the business world does nothing. All it does is hurt you as an employee, hurts your image and your reputation as a person in the business world, and makes people look at you and say, this is not a person I need to take seriously, or this is not an individual I need to consider, because the minute something goes wrong, this guy cannot navigate his emotions. He doesn't have the self control to deal with things in a professional way. And if we wind up in a situation, what this individual is going to do is they're going to act out. And when you write a commentary like this individual did, talking about Asperger's in a professional situation towards another employee or another boss, and they find out about it, guess what's going to happen to you? Again, at the least, people will just stop considering you for advanced positions in that organization. And at the most, at the worst, this guy's going to get called into an office and he's going to be talked to by a boss about conduct in the workplace. And this is something that the workplace simp doesn't understand. And we have here on social media are a lot of undercover simps, floating around in the manosphere. And you don't see them until you start reading their comments. And I quickly identify these workplace simps, very easily by reading reading the comments and reading the language that they use in those comments. Because again, if you have to go into ad hominem attacks because you heard something in a video you do not like, or you heard a statement that was based on fact that you don't want to hear, and you start getting upset, then that shows that you pretty much are a workplace simp. Because if I'm not talking about you, then it's not going to hurt your feelings. Now, this individual also went on in another comment to make some serious errors regarding sexual harassment and sexual harassment policy. They were going to sit there and say to me, that sexual harassment was just something that men do to women. Now, I've taken a human resource class in college, and also when I was working at City College of New York, I had to go to a sexual harassment seminar. And I know the two terms for sexual harassment. One, the first term for sexual harassment is an unwanted and unwarranted advance made by either a male or a female. So it's the term for sexual harassment is the unwanted and unwarranted advance by the individual, regardless of gender. So that means if you ask a woman out and she says no, and then you continue to ask her, that's an unwanted and unwarranted advance, and that can be considered sexual harassment. If that woman asks a man out and he says no, and she continues to pester him, that is an unwanted and unwarranted advance and is considered sexual harassment. A man can ask a man out on a date and continue to pester him, and that is an unwanted and unwarranted advance. A woman can ask another woman out, and that can be considered an unwanted and unwarranted advance. Now, the second term for sexual harassment in the workplace is called a hostile environment. And a hostile environment can be created by guys participating in what is considered locker room talk, presenting pictures that are sexually suggestive either of men or women in a cubicle, watching pornography on a workplace computer, or writing emails and sending them back and forth to each other with sexually suggestive comments, or saying things that are sexual in nature and inappropriate in the workplace. And if you as a supervisor do not check this, this is considered creating a hostile environment. And that is the second term regarding sexual harassment, because sexual harassment is unwanted and unwarranted advances, whereas you continue to ask somebody out after they have said no, and creating that hostile environment. And that hostile environment, again, can be either putting up those, Playboy pictures or those Sports Illustrated swimsuit pictures, or having a Sports Illustrated swimsuit magazine, or it can be people watching porn or looking at lingerie on workplace computers, and or it can be stuff like this so-called locker room talk where these guys come in on, like a lot of simps do. They come in on Monday morning talking about the chicks that they got at the club, or it can go to extreme cases where it's almost criminal, where these guys are putting cameras in bathrooms, or they're doing stuff like grabbing women and fondling women or smacking women on the rear end. That's a hostile environment, and that, if it's not checked by supervisors, is considered grounds for sexual harassment. Now, that's one of the other things he was talking about. And then he went on to talk about how civil service tests are easy. And I can tell you from personal experiences of taking 3 of them that they are a bit of a challenge. They're not as easy as many people think they are. And you have to really study up if you want to take one of these civil service tests and pass it. And this person, again, when I was reading their comments, I could just see the jealousy in this individual's statements. I could see a little bit of envy in these statements. And it's just really sad that we have people in the manosphere who are undercover simps. And whenever you make a statement about simping, about this type of dysfunctional behavior, they have to go into ad hominem attacks and try to attack you for trying to help other men out. Because when you have a simp in the workplace, it is counterproductive to men. When men have simps in the workplace, these guys slow down productivity, they prevent people from meeting their goals, and they try to get in the way of hard-working men because they feel intimidated and threatened by them. And it's clear to me that this individual feels intimidated and threatened by my masculine energy and my masculine presence, because he wouldn't have to go into ad hominem attacks unless he did feel intimidated and threatened by my masculinity and my masculine presence, because only a workplace simp does this. And this is something I saw, again, at the Strive Job Readiness Workshop with the 2 Manginas I dealt with, and the Mangina College professor I dealt with at City College of New York. Again, feeling intimidated and threatened by just a man's presence because they couldn't deal with the whole fact that another man was in there and another man was pretty much either equal to on their level, or as in their minds, superior to their level, because they felt intimidated enough to start backing away based on instinct, not on credentials. Now, some guys, they'll sit there and they have all this education and college degrees, and if you come in with just a presence, it makes them feel uncomfortable because they pretty much feel intimidated. Now, any other ordinary man is going to come into a workplace, he sees another man, he's not going to care because he's focused on himself, he's focused on his goals he wants to achieve, he's focused on putting himself first, and he's focused on meeting the goals that he wants to achieve in life. But your mangina, your workplace simp, when they see another man come into the workplace, the first thing he's worried about is this man being in the room with them, and this man pretty much showing that he can do something better than they can. And in their little imagined mind, that person is going to take their job, even though in most cases that guy isn't even concerned about his job or even concerned about even trying to take his job. And it's not even possible for that guy to take his job because, again, why would a company go out of their way to put a new guy who has just been hired into a position that this guy has had for many years and pretty much knows? Now, this other guy who just came in, he's just learning the ropes, he's learning the culture. He cannot replace you. And any secure man in his manhood and secure in his confidence knows that he's not going to be replaced anytime soon, especially if he's up on his game. And if he's up on his game, he's sitting there saying, look, I'm just here to achieve whatever goals I want to pursue. And once I finish, I'm ready to either apply for the next position or move on to the next organization. They're not sitting there insecure, worrying about somebody taking something that they never owned in the first place, because you do not own any job at any of these companies. You are hired there to do labor, and that's about it. That's all you're there for, and you have to understand that. Any guy like myself we understand what we're here for. We're here to meet the goals we want to pursue, and then after we do that, we move on. We understand we don't own this job, and we're secure in ourselves and know that, job security is not something that the employer is responsible for. That's something we're responsible for. And the workplace mangina and the workplace simp, they think that that's something that the manager is responsible for. They give power to people who they shouldn't give power to, and then they get upset at guys like me for trying to empower other men so that they can have the tools and things to move their lives ahead, move themselves to the next level, and start making efforts to put themselves first. Because when you're in the workplace, you have two things that you need to be really focused on: the goals you want to achieve and accomplish, and stacking all those chips so that you can have the financial resources to be able to take care of yourself in the future. Unfortunately, most simps spend most of their time chasing chicks instead of stacking chips, and that's why they wind up in the poorhouse with a damaged workplace reputation and a tarnished workplace career. You can pick up Stop Simping in the Workplace free on smashwords.com. It's a book that will provide you with lots of information that will help you stop simping in the workplace and learn a different life paradigm that will help you take your professional career to the next level.